The Rocky Mountain chapter of SAVE International is pleased to commemorate the work of Charles W. Bytheway in this video series. Feel free to view some or all of the segments that feature the origins of fast diagramming and their applications for value practitioners worldwide. Function analysis translates the structure of any product or process, procedure or service into a structure of words. The objective is to shift the viewpoint of the problem solver from the concrete to the unconstrained. In 1963, Charles W. Bytheway conceived a new method of function definition and analysis. His original document was named Basic Function Determination Technique. When it was presented in the 1965 SAVE conference, it was renamed Functional Analysis System Technique. The word functional was later replaced with function after a conversation Charles had with Carlos Fallon.
I was in the design department, and I helped design a tank. I made the structure for mounting a Gatling gun on it, and the structure was also, it was a towed vehicle, and it also was put on with a tank as well. So it was a Gatling gun. It was a 62 millimeter Gatling gun. It was made by Armor Research in Illinois. We mounted it, and we tested it. We went out to Dugway and to test it, and the guy who was the main principal engineer on the project, he was in the compartment to test it out. And instead of rotating it away from the audience, he rotated it towards us. Well, we all knew that 62 millimeter shells, if they started coming at us, we were dead. And anyway, it turned out they had a drone pulled behind an aircraft, and they let that thing go and just mutilated that drone. And anyway, unfortunately, rockets were just invented at that time, and so our product never ended up getting used.
Oh my.
But that was my first project I worked on, and I helped design the whole structure on it and analyze all the stresses and everything else in the structure. So I was a stress engineer, basically. And finally, they transferred me over into the stress engineering department. And while I was there, they decided that the corporation wanted somebody to run a value engineering study. And since I didn't have any assignment in the stress department yet, he says, by the way, how would you like to run the value engineering? I didn't know a thing about value engineering. And so they sent me to UCLA. I took the first class in value engineering ever taught at a university. And when they talked about functions, it just motivated me. Like, man, that's sure a different way of thinking. And what they would do, they would normally just write down all the functions, and then they'd just pick one that they thought was a basic function. Well, that wasn't good enough for me, so I kept mulling that over and over and over in my mind. And one day I said, I know how to solve what the basic function is. So I took all the functions and listened. I picked the one I thought was the basic function. And then I said, if I didn't have to perform this function, would I have to perform any of the other functions listed? If the answer was it didn't have to do any, I knew I had the basic function. So that's how I started this method of thinking. So every time I had a project, that's what I did. And it didn't matter what the project was. I could go and I could take the project and analyze it. I would write down the functions, and I would start asking my team members why they want to do this and why they want to do that. And then I'd convert that answer to a function. And as I did that, I always come out with some kind of solution for what we were developing. Didn't matter what it was. And every time we'd complete a seminar, we'd have about 6 teams, and I'd go around and help each one of the teams. And my boss would say to me, "How are you thinking? How do you do that?" Jesus, just do what everybody else does. You just ask why you're doing it and how you intend to accomplish it. So I was writing down functions for each answer. And so he said, "Well, why don't you write down how you think?" And I said, "Gee, I think just like everybody else does." And anyway, as I started doing that, I said, "This is so simple. Nobody's going to believe this is worthwhile." Because it really just is plain common sense. So, well, anyway, I kept writing and finally I composed my paper.
Through the years, Charles had many successful value workshops at Sperry Univac. The following are examples of some of his accomplishments. In May of 1976, Charles was awarded the Lawrence D. Miles Award for his work in developing the FAST diagram. Charles cherished his association with Larry Miles. Larry featured Charlie's work in the second edition of his book, Techniques of Value Analysis and Engineering. He attended as many SAVE conferences as possible and made many friends in the value community over the years. Developing the FAST diagram can help a team put concepts into words and paint a picture for better understanding. Use of the FAST diagram has aided participants shifting course to achieve broader project goals, expediting the identification of cost-heavy functions, focused brainstorming, and developing outstanding proposals.